So this is how it goes. You're prescribing, dispensing, administration and the like. There's a murder case wherein the doctor prescribed something. By the time it reaches the pharmacy, some hacker comes in, changes the medicine or the dosage, which was delivered to the staff nurse. By the time again the whole thing comes to the staff nurse, it has been hacked again and brought back to the original. This dosage was administered to the patient and the patient died. So there are issues which you might not realize because of your lack of knowledge of technology. You're not trying to appreciate the fact that world has become much more complex than what you feel it to be. So under those circumstances, such incidents are bound to happen. Medication errors, there are a lot many. And this would be one of the, I think, key areas of negligence. And more so, besides the medication errors, the way drugs are being sold off the table in this country, it's just unimaginable. I think if biggest risk this country's population faces today is selling and buying of drugs, what you call in software language, off the shelf. But that off the shelf should happen. This off the shelf should not happen. It is something like if you compare it to is what we were selling, rectified spirit and all that. And end of the day, even that was banned. So if we have so much of quality control on liquor, at least drugs should have a very divine quality control, distribution, control and monitoring mechanism. Follow drug formulary. I've been told that lot many hospitals the judge don't follow. And they don't also get into the concept of first in, first out and all those standard systems, which are systems of inventory control. It has nothing to do with hospital or anything. It is a system of inventory control, and until and unless you follow right systems of inventory control, you will not be able to control your stocks, and your stocks are much more important than anybody else's stocks. Because it has got a very clear-cut specified expiry date, and that expiry date is directly related to the expiry of your patient. It is not the expiry date of the medicine, it is the expiry date of the patient if you try doing anything which has crossed his expiry date. So this is where we are. You call it professional misconduct, you call it medical negligence, you call it crime, you call it ethics, you call it values. End of the day, it is happening only for one reason. That is to make a fast buck. There is absolutely no other reason, and that can only be checked if this activity is treated as a criminal offense. That is what is my personal opinion. It has nothing to do that I am a police officer, but that's my personal opinion. Until and let punitive things happen, it cannot be set right. And our society has shown again and again and again that by enforcing moral conduct, nothing is going to happen. Good communication skills have shown increased patient cooperation. Good communication skills in any aspect, any facet, any sector of life will certainly improve your performance. And if by some chance it doesn't improve your performance, it will certainly improve your currency. There's a famous heart surgeon from Houston. Now the doctors who talk about there were very little time and there were lot many patients and so on and so forth. This cardiac surgeon, so this guy used to spend only 30 seconds with every post-operative patient of his, but had such a photographic or a digital sort of a memory that straight away he was able to connect to the patient and he would ask the question which the patient would be waiting for. And 30 seconds he used to provide complete satisfaction to the patient. So either you leverage your skills, your thought process, your self-learning to a level where intuition becomes synchronized with your patient, or else you give time. End of the day, the service which is to go to the patient cannot be compromised. 24% of the patients being grossly dissatisfied, 38 moderately, and 11 non-compliant. So that is where communication plays the biggest role. And today we are at an age and stage in human existence where we communicate even more than what we think. So if that is the state of affairs, our mechanical thinking, our reflex should be at a level where we think the right thing by reflex, we think the right thing in a mechanical manner, and we think the right thing every time it is a matter of habit. So medical communication, there are two schools of thought. One says that you cannot improve your communication. The other says you can. The school of thought which says you can improve your communication is how you improve it is rapport building, agenda setting, information management, active listening to respondents, skills in reaching common ground. Now we come to what is generally the most talked after issue in medical ethics, that is medical negligence, which goes slightly in the area, in the domain in which I live. So I certainly am more comfortable with that. So reasonable man, I'll just go get into a few points, and I think that would be sufficient to explain the younger crowd as to where they stand. And there is no phobia of medical negligence or criminal negligence, or there is no ghost which is chasing you. As long as you are thorough in your knowledge, you are thorough in your skills, and you have the capability to understand, capability to respond, and capability to even retort back in situations of crisis, the law is certainly in your favor. Professional negligence, we have it in urgent hospitalization, informed consent, attend patient on time, keep well informed. So most of these issues which relate to criminal negligence happens in areas which are not very complex. If somebody is not able to put a gas cylinder, somebody is not admitted to a hospital, he goes to 6 hospitals, one after the other, is not admitted. But very rarely you will find a case of criminal negligence in a complex brain surgery or a complete heart surgery or a hip replacement, things which are at the cutting edge of medical science. So this happens where things are very, very clear, where a common man, an ordinary man can make out that some lapse has taken place. In criminal law, it is basically the negligence which we are bothered about, whereas the liability is the aspect of law of torts. Recklessly, the person has to be reckless. It is not a normal behavior. Whether he gets caught in criminal negligence in this case or in the 5th case after this, but his reckless behavior will certainly land the doctor in one case or the other, sometime or the other. Factor of grossness and degree does assume significance. It's just not that you do something which might be on your standard operating procedure, and if you don't follow point number 7.2, then you land in a Tihar jail for next 30 years of your life. It does not happen that way. The judges in this country and the investigating officers in the country, they are not such. And see, legally they don't have that powers. How will they deliver? If you think that any judge can catch you and put you behind bars, or any investigating officer can charge sheet you, it's not going to happen. You are well within your rights to make mistakes, to miss procedures, to think on a different line, have a different line of treatment. You are well within your rights. Nobody is going to do you anything. But having committed a mistake, more so deliberately, if you want to use this camouflage, then that is also generally not going to happen. So if you are not able to maintain the standard of skill set and standard of knowledge, which is commensurate to the available medical knowledge in the area you specialized, should you practice? It's not a bad idea to put some sort of a check on every profession. This is not medical profession, every profession. But the unfortunate part is that if you get respect out of dealing with human life, then you should also be held maximum responsible. So there's a link between moral fault, blame, and justice. We have discussed lot many things, but one thing is decided, that social efficacy can be maintained only if somebody who violates is punished, or he is taken to trial and then punished. But the necessity in principle from a moral point of view has been accepted. There is no denying the fact that the blame cannot be overemphasized. But the point is, if somebody commits an offense, he has to go through the normal process of law in this country. A violation is culpable. It will remain, however much we discuss this. Morally unworthy state of mind, which is reckless and deliberate wrongdoing, when the wrongdoing is being done deliberately. Blame is a powerful weapon. Calling for punishment on account of being gross or of a very high degree requires for careful, morally sensitive and scientifically informed analysis. If I am right, I think it is a quote from Matthew Jacob case. So, you not possess the requisite skill, or you don't exercise that requisite skill. There's only just two issues. So, this is the safeguard which Supreme Court provides for all Indian medical practitioners. Produced prima facie evidence. If somebody files a case against you, he has to provide a prima facie evidence. Obtain an independent and competent medical opinion. So, having gone through the first part, that is the prima facie, you prove to yourself that this is not a frivolous case. Nobody is being framed into that. Nobody is being fixed for some ulterior motive. Having done that, the next stage is to obtain an independent and competent medical opinion. And that medical opinion has to qualify that Bohlum test has been applied. So, this is the second thing. And third thing, if by some stretch of proper investigation you are still getting caught, Supreme Court says, please don't arrest him. He is a noble person. So even that sort of a immunity, it cannot be a complete immunity, but a very, very broad, clear-cut judicial directive is in your favor, which says he need not be arrested, or he can be arrested only for furthering the investigation, for collecting evidence, or likely to make himself unavailable. So every doctor, whether at government hospital or otherwise, has the professional obligation to extend his services with due expertise for protecting life. You have the freedom to choose your patient, but in emergency and when temperate public opinion requires that you provide your medical services for the benefit of the individual or the society, you are duty bound to do so. The court stated that denial timely medical treatment necessary to preserve in government or hospital is a violation of fundamental right. There cannot be a bigger crime in this country. So this is where we are. I'll add a new dimension to the whatever we have discussing so far is the civil rights concept. When Supreme Court of India has provided you so much of power, when this is the law of the land, till the time something else is enacted, and whatever is enacted will be enacted in a similar manner, still the great intelligentsia of the country, the great leaders of this country, in any field whatsoever, they are not picking up on this. And we are ready to live with substandard medical treatment day in and day out. This is our love for our life, for our liberty, and for this nation. So, in the year 2008, was created this National Accreditation Board for Hospitals and Healthcare Providers. And till today, I'll come to the figures later, if any of the medical practitioners would be able to guide me as to how many hospitals we have in this country. I'm not aware. How many nursing homes we have in this country. But as the figures will prove to you, then whatever has happened in the last 4 or 5 years is even, I think calling it minuscule also is extremely shameful. So, standardization and its uniform implementation is the panacea to all issues of medical negligence. Medical services have no meaning if it does not meet the minimum quality standards in their respective areas. In India, there are just 163 hospitals which are accredited by NABH. And in Karnataka, there are only 19, of which 50 are in Bangalore. So this is what our progress is, and unfortunately, most of the hospitals which are trying to go in for accreditation feel that it is the job of the consultant or it is job of some other person in the very same manner. When I was handling police's computerization, they thought creating content of the website is my job. So these are the chapters. Access assessment, continuity of care, care of patients, management of medication, patient rights and education, hospital infection control, continuous quality improvement, responsibility of management, facility management and safety, human resource management and information management system. Matching patients' requirements with organizations' resources. So this is the job we are supposed to do. And if we are not able to do this job, the hospital is not going to function in a manner it should. So this is the care of patients, emergency services, intensive care, surgical patients, research activities, end of life care, whatever I thought was important, I've just highlighted. This is not highlighted by NABH. Hospital formulary, now again and again I've been talking about, because somebody has told me it's not being maintained in the manner it should be. Medication administration, it creates huge amount of issues. Informed consent, information on expected costs. Infection control, they say, I think most of the infections you get in the hospital, and more so in the government hospitals. So the likelihood of infection getting carried out of the hospital is much higher than being brought inside the hospital. Biomedical waste management, I think that still remains a big issue. So these are your quality improvement indicators. Clinical structures are there, managerial structures are there, quality assurance program is there. Facilities management we have been talking about, that is the whole concept of warranty and your annual maintenance, proprietary issues, licensing issues. There are lot many issues because you deal with lot many gadgets. HR we talked about, and finally the information management system. I don't know what is the issue with hospitals and medical colleges running on an ERP solution, enterprise resource planning solution. Every hospital outside this country runs on similar platforms, and with that platform, if you integrate quality standards, I think our principal and all other principals and directors of medical hospitals and colleges would be able to get every single piece of information at the click of a mouse, which is the norm of the day. There's nothing great about it. And if every single patient is able to access every single piece of information pertaining to that patient and pertaining to the doctor as far as it is related to his disease or related to the competence, experience and educational qualification of the doctor, I think your patient strength will double in couple of months' time. That is the level of confidence which digital technology creates, because digital technology is not something unconnected to your day-to-day functioning. It is just a reflection, a manifestation of the work which you are doing. Instead of writing, you're feeding somewhere. And end of the day, the collation mechanism, the storage mechanism, the retrieval mechanism, and all the connects which the software provides takes you to a totally different level. So consumer law, I think all of us are aware of. I'll not get into much of it. The patient becomes a consumer and you become a service provider. So that is the name of the game, and there's somebody to adjudicate. In my own opinion, whether it's a free service or a non-free service, the quality standards have to be maintained, and nobody should be allowed to get scot-free because it is a free service, because the medical practitioner nonetheless is being paid a salary. So he might as well deliver whatever services are expected out of him, whether it comes out of a government exchequer, it comes out of somebody's pocket or whatever, that is completely immaterial to the patient. So finally we come to the last leg. So what are the surmountables? Is resources, infrastructure. Everybody says resources are not in place, infrastructure is not in place. My own understanding is our minds are not in place. Correct. Resources infrastructure has moved considerably in last 20-30 years, but we still keep repeating the same thing. Might be is the easy way out. Human resources quality, we cannot blame anybody, we can blame ourselves. Technology, we cannot blame anybody. I run the whole ELL lectures as good as free. Okay? Quality standards, documentation, organizational culture. Are you a part of the society? If you are a part of the society, be like one. So somebody happens, next door neighbor, he is sick, treat him as a next door neighbor. Somebody is uncle, you treat him as uncle. The roadmap. First is your commitment to oath. You are committed to the oath, you are committed through that oath to humanity. So the day you cut that connection, All these quality standards, attitude, all these issues will come. Till the day you are connected to that, none of these issues will come. 3 o'clock in the night, you will get up, you will ring up a patient and will ask him whether you are all right or not. You will ring up the nurse and you will say, what happened? Did you give this correct dose or not? You know every single person who is working under you what is as to what the competence is. And if you don't have that competence, you don't deserve to head people working under you. You fulfill your role as a supervisor, as a manager, what we call as the command and control function. If you do your command and control function, as it operates in the army and the police, it will operate everywhere. Correct? In peacetime, you are not able to work. In best of the circumstances, you are not able to work. How are people working in Kargil? How are people working in terror attacks? When you are working when you don't know, there would be another bomb planted there. Phased implementation, technology and its usage, an ERP solution, quality standards, zero tolerance. With quality standards, zero tolerance, there is a global benchmarking of every single activity, feature, task, project, human resource, workflow, systems, procedure. In a department, in a hospital, of size, intensity, complexity, funding, anything. So there is nothing which is unknown. If you want, I'll write a project report for you and I'll give it to you. There's absolutely no problem. And documentation remains where it is. Roadmap, improve quality of education, upgradation of skills, commitment to community, know what you do and do what you know. Don't do anything beyond that. Because if you don't know, what will you do? So this is latest of my quotes as a thought leader. Correct. You will get my thoughts for free at www.sanjay-sai.com. I run 4 websites. The second is EL Lectures, of which we are a part of. Third is Lakes for Life, which is on environment and social service. And fourth one we had on national security. That is Homeland Security, hls-india.com. So we had on NSHSD, that is the National Symposium on Homeland Security, where we had to wind it up for some reasons. And today we are launching this HLS India. So that is the 4th website. Karnataka State Police website was created by me and it is one of the most visited websites in the governmental sector. So this is broadly, I have huge amount of internet presence on YouTube. I have written an article on police IT software, which is a Wikipedia page. So I have nearly 2.5 GB of internet presence, which would be one of the highest by any individuals in this country or across the globe. So this is where we stand. Upgradation of skills, commitment to community. So this is done. And finally, if I have the capability of giving a lecture, I should also have the capability to wind it up in a way which is completely satisfying to each and every single individual who is a part of my audience. And generally, however much I give extempore, my last conclusion is a well thought out one. I feel that I am not competent enough to just speak it out again, though I have only written it, I have not brought it from anywhere. So I'll just read it out in a manner which is befitting of the conclusion. We are not in a happy situation, and that is of our making. Things can change dramatically with attitudinal change and giving in more effort and time. Proactive leadership is the key. Strict implementation of quality standards and use of appropriate technology is critical. High standard medical education and upgrade of knowledge and skills, and leverage the country into the next level of healthcare. So I think it is reasonably satisfying to my august, intelligent and well-knowing audience, because might be I am the least of the stakeholders of the subject which I have been handling for nearly 1.5 hours. Move ahead. There's something beyond conclusion also, which you generally don't get, but I'm giving you something more than what you asked for. So anyway, we are on the verge of the Indian healthcare revolution. There's no denying the fact. Infrastructurally, logistically, human resource wise, technology wise, we are just on the verge of a healthcare revolution. Let's make it happen. So with the medical fraternity, all stakeholders, on behalf of ELL, on behalf of the state government, on behalf of Sanjay Sai, and the whole team. We promise that we'll make it happen.